is we're going to have a few of the counselors go quickly over a few slides of sort of what the juniors should be doing at this time and how to get ready to prepare for next fall. And then after that, we'll have our panel of college admissions. And we'll start, they'll go, do an overview of their college, and then we'll go to Q&A. Okay, so I'm going to have Mr. Donatopoulos come up, and he'll start the presentation.
Thank you, Mrs. Flynn. Good evening, everybody. So, us counselors, we've been in classrooms all week with juniors. So maybe a conversation on the way home, you can tell you what we've gone over with them. Some of this will be a review for them that they've heard. But this is, again, what we've been telling them all week. Where we are in the school year, we just ended the first semester. Most important thing, keep up with your schoolwork. GPAs will be recalculated in the next couple of days, since teachers will be submitting grades tomorrow morning. We've gotten a couple of questions about GPA this week. Reminder or review, our GPA is on a 5.0 scale. It's cumulative, it's weighted, and it's recalculated at the end of each semester. So after it's recalculated in the next couple of days, it will be recalculated again at the end of June. Students have been working on the score accounts this week. I know it's spelled a little differently than, S-C-O-R-E. Some people pronounce it Squire. It is SCORE. This is an excellent resource for all of our students that cover a variety of things that will be encountering in high school, but we've been focusing on the college piece this week. And that's where they can do research and then start setting up visits or attending college fairs. February and April break are great times to visit schools. As colleges are usually on break in March, we're on break in February and April, so it lines up nicely to be able to take some time, if your schedule allows, to visit some schools then. Talk about standardized testing with the SAT or the ACT. Again, an excellent semester. We strongly suggest taking the SAT or the ACT. Coming up, they're offered in March, May, or June. Here at Shrewsbury High School, we offer the SAT in March and May. And then with some students, it's, if you're an AP student, you do have AP exams in May. Everybody will be taking finals in June. So thinking ahead as far as spreading out the tests or what works best for you would be something to discuss at home and with your counselor as far as what the best plan will be, so there's, not everything's in a short window of time. Also in May, usually after April break, we suggest students to start having conversations with their counselor and identifying 2 teachers for letters of recommendation. That's to be part of the application packet to schools, and along with the counselor recommendation, we suggest 2 academic teachers from junior year. If students have a difficult time identifying 2 teachers from junior year, then brainstorming with a counselor on who would be appropriate for them to help tell their story in the classroom during high school, and obviously show the characteristics and qualities that would allow the student to be successful at the college level. Going into June as well, working through that list of schools, I know some students and families like to keep a Google Sheet or their own list, which does work. SCORE is a great home base, so to speak, with keeping the list of schools, and it's always ongoing based on visits, conversations, different updates. So we really wanted to make sure our students are using SCORE, and although we don't have a parent login for that, sitting down with your child at home and going over and have them showing you what they've done, and that could be an educational experience for the parent as well. It's a lot of great information. I can think back to my days, we all had the big books and highlighters and whatnot. You can filter a list and really catch a lot of information in a matter of just a couple minutes if you're looking for a certain school and then saving that list. I know it says in the last bullet here, students schedule time to meet with your school counselor. We will be meeting at minimum twice with your child this semester. One will be for course selection after February break in early March. That's right around the corner, planning for senior year. So identifying courses that will help your child be challenged and successful. And then again in April, where we do an update as far as where they are with graduation plans and maybe whatever needs to be executed over the summer in relation to those graduation plans. So now's the time, if you haven't seen your counselor a lot over freshman, sophomore year, or even beginning of junior year, this is when we want to see you guys more frequently. And I do believe in my time as a counselor, I know this can be very stressful and overwhelming, but breaking this into small chunks and meeting with your counselor every couple weeks when available, and you can feel like we're making progress and sharing updates based on those visits and all the conversations you've had. Okay, college research considerations. You guys didn't hear a lot about deadlines, and I'm sure with our panel, they'll be able to emphasize this. You're going to hear methods of application like early decision, early action, regular decision, rolling. So those are deadlines throughout the year. You're going to see the early action, early decision deadlines are usually between November 1 and December 1, with some outliers earlier in October and some maybe a little later in December. Regular decision, you're looking at January 1 or later, and there may be some early decision 2 or early action 2 deadlines in that December, January timeframe. Rolling admission means you can really apply anytime throughout the year if the school offers that opportunity, but if you're applying to certain programs, be cognizant that they may have their own deadlines. So working with your counselor and making sure you understand what those deadlines are, very important. Obviously, look in the programs and major offerings. Admissions expectations as far as testing policy. I know many schools are test optional. Some are definitely required, and I think that'd be a great question for our panel, what their views on standardized testing from their respective schools and their recommendations for you there. And then obviously supplemental essays. As far as high school course requirements, I think an immediate thing with your research is to see if there's any course-specific requirements, and that could affect your course selection for next year. So again, if you're applying for certain programs, and then speaking with your counselor, and when you make those decisions in March, our course selection process is pretty extensive, usually over 4 or 5 weeks, so we can have all those conversations so you feel confident about the decisions that are being made with courses. And obviously, with the last bullet here, do I need to go any further than how much it's going to cost? Again, looking at whatever the financial requirements are, we do have a financial aid night down the road to attend, and I think that would be obviously something important to make note of. And different schools offer scholarship opportunities, and then as far as senior year, we do advertise many local, national, and corporate scholarships that are available for our students through Schoology, and they'll have all those directions once that, when the time comes around next year. Okay, what's a good number? I can speak from my personal experience. Some of my fellow counselors may have me beat. My record high for a student in my time is 33. A lot of money to spend to apply to schools. My record low is 1. My first year, I'll never forget, I had a student that came in and applied early decision to Marist, put all their eggs in one basket, and they're like, you know what, I'm going to apply early decision. I love that place, so I'm not going anywhere else. If it doesn't work out, we'll figure that out later. Thankfully, it did, and it worked for that student. So, on the average, it's usually around 6 or 8 schools. It's very important to identify schools that are, I put in 3 categories as far as reach, target, competitive, realistic, and then favorable. You may hear safety, I use favorable for that category there. And as far as how you break that down, it can be balanced as evenly as you want. You don't want too many in either favorable or reach. It's okay to apply those reach schools. The worst thing they're going to say is no. Life goes on. You never want. I always say to students to apply as many of those reach schools as they want, because if you don't apply and you're already going to make that decision yourself, you'll always wonder down the road. So again, apply to schools that you really are interested in and you can see yourself going to. How do you identify those schools? I think using SCORE, again, is a great resource. We have a scattergram option on there where you can see recent graduates, not their names, but you can see their profile as far as their GPA and standardized test score, and if they got accepted, denied, waitlisted, deferred, or whatever. So again, that's not the end-all be-all, but it serves as a good barometer. And then the last bullet there, every school should be your first choice. I don't think it's a healthy mindset just to apply to a bunch of schools to see how many acceptances you can get. That can get expensive, but making sure that you can see yourself, even if it's just a safety school or a favorable school, you want to make sure that you can see yourself going there. And doing the research, going on the visits is only going to give you confidence when that time comes, not only to apply, but make that decision by May 1st to put that deposit down and commit to that school. All right. Thank you. Mr. Russell's next.
Hi everyone, my name is Sean Russell. So I'm going to start with the junior timeline. So again, Mr. Domitopoulos gave a lot of great information. That's what we recommend students start to do now and later on into the spring. However, for the summer, continue to gather that information and narrow down that list of schools that you're looking at. Again, through SCORE, through the college website. There's a lot of really good resources out there to help narrow down that list. Again, we recommend that you start to go on tours and visits of school. The time that we really encourage students to go on the tours is when school is in session, to make sure that you get that authentic vibe of the campus, what the student life is like, to make sure that, hey, this is somewhere I can see myself for the next 4 years and a place that I can call home. Over the summer is great, but again, not with when students aren't in session, you just don't get that 100% vibe and feeling of the college campus. Come August 1st, the Common App will open applications to colleges. That's when they begin to open. We really recommend that students get a jump start on that process during the summer, because once senior year starts, classes, courses, homework, projects, that doesn't slow down, right? So we kind of view this as, if you're thinking about applying early, regular decision, college admissions is kind of like an additional class, all right? So when we meet about course selection, it's always something that we like to keep in mind for senior year. We also have a program called Application Boot Camp that's run over the summer, where students come in August. We have admissions counselors from local colleges and universities. They come in where they look at the college essay, they do a mock interview. We also have our English department comes in, and we, again, for essay revision, we do a little supplemental workshop and just really any general Common App questions, application questions. It's a great program. I think if you're ready, if you're starting to, if you have a list of schools, you know where you want to apply to, it's a great opportunity. Come the fall, we have senior school council seminars where we go into classrooms early on in September, very similar to what we're doing right now with the juniors. This is, again, just a jump start to make sure that if college is on your radar, especially for the 4-year process, that you know what you're doing, you feel prepared, and you feel confident moving on. Certainly keep that list updated in SCORE, so us as counselors, we can see when you update that list in SCORE. So again, it helps give us an idea of where you're thinking, what kind of schools you're thinking, and we can also suggest schools to students based off that list. And also we have a senior parent night called Nuts and Bolts, right, where we dive deeper into that process, what exactly what that looks like, and also a financial aid night. So some do's and don'ts. Fill out the biosurvey and SCORE. So when it comes to counselor letter of recommendation, the biosurvey is a huge help for us counselors to make sure that we're putting the student in the best possible light to colleges. So what that is, it's really it's about 15 to 16 questions where students can talk about their accomplishments throughout high school, clubs, activities, whatever the case is. We do encourage students to find the best fit. Right, so when we talk about the best fit, it's not just the biggest, best brand name, right? We're looking at, hey, are the academics a good fit? Is the campus a good fit? And of course, the financial aid piece. Is that a good fit as well? Teacher recommendations, again, we're looking for 2 teachers from junior year. The main reason being that this is the most recent version of you as a student, right? You're different from freshman to junior year. Again, we encourage families to attend the nuts and bolts night that we have in September. Ms. Stamatopoulos mentioned this, don't apply to 30 colleges. Again, every year we have these conversations I find myself having these conversations with students where, they come in, really big list, and I ask, I say, hey, if you get into this school, would you go there? And the answer is no. So it's, why would you apply there? Again, it's just, there's already so much time that you're spending on with this process. Again, don't wait until the last minute. These dates and deadlines, they're firm. They're firm. So just, we recommend writing things down. The more place where you can have kind of like a home base. Again, if that's score, that's great. Write things down, and again, don't wait until the last minute. Don't apply early decision if you're not absolutely sure. I'd like to encourage students that early decision. You sign a binding agreement where you say, hey, if I get in, I'm going here, right? 100%. Again, if this hasn't been your dream school since freshman, sophomore year, it's worth having the conversation to see if this actually is the right fit. And don't avoid talking about finances at home. I think some of the best piece of advice that we can give out as a department is find just one day during the week. If it's Sundays, say, all right, hey, every Sunday we're just going to talk for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour about the college process, just to provide updates from a college search list, financial piece, tours, and just scheduling things. Because if you're talking about it, every day, every other day, that does get overwhelming, right? And again, this is already an overwhelming process, so we're looking to keep it as relaxed as possible. And again, this is a student-driven process, right? The students going to the school for 4 years, so we like to encourage them to take the lead here. So applying to college is not a simple or straightforward process, right? Every year, the college admissions, the trends are different. I know we as a department, we do our best to keep up on the trends, speaking to admissions counselors for sure. But again, we can't predict the characteristics of the pool of applicants from year to year. Again, the admission decision, it's based on what their institutional goals are from year to year. So every year, they're kind of looking to bring in a diverse and a unique class to their campus just to enhance it. And again, that does change from year to year. All right, now we're going to bring up Miss Ariel.
Hi everybody, I'm Susie Ariel. I'm one of the school counselors. Thank you so much for coming. This is just a review of the school counseling staff. We are showing this to you again, just as a reminder so that you know who to contact with questions about the college process, course selection, and more. Please know that we are more than welcome to meet with you and your child as well. So please don't hesitate to reach out. So again, these are our names. This is our course load of students. Please don't hesitate to reach out. As was mentioned before, we will meet with all of our juniors in April, one-on-one. So it might be a good idea to use that time frame as a way to have your student prepared for those meetings, right? Maybe it starts those conversations so that your student is prepared in April to talk with us about what their future plans might entail. So I'm going to move on. Did everybody get a screenshot of that if they need it? All right, going to move on. So there's a lot of words on this slide. I'm not going to read this quote. There's 2 quotes up here. I'm not going to read this word for word. The overarching message of these quotes is about being authentic, about your student showing their genuine and authentic self to and through the admissions process. I'm really glad that I actually get to show this slide. I have some experience reading applications for Northeastern University, and seeing it from the other side, it really is so interesting. You really do get a sense of a student through their application. I wasn't ever sure about that. Sorry, admissions reps. Sorry, I wasn't ever really sure, can you really see a student through their application? And you can. You can see when they're being honest in their essays, they're being honest in that additional information section. And so both of these quotes, one from the Dean of Admissions at Boston College, and the other from the college admissions representative at Florida International University, both have that overarching message. All right. These slides will also be shared, by the way, all of this on the website. So in case you haven't captured this, you will get to see it. So I'm going to move on. I know they're really compelling quotes, but I'm going to go on to the next slide. So for the next part of the program, we are very lucky to have a group of college admissions representatives here with us tonight. I'm going to introduce them. They're going to come, sit here, and be able to field your questions. So we're very happy to have Phil Baird from UMass Amherst with us tonight. Thank you, Phil. Come on up. We're also pleased to have Tiana Cadasquillo from Worcester State University. Jen Cluett from WPI. Katie Hager from Boston College. George Kuntz from Assumption, our neighbor. And Justin Sharifapour from Amherst. So thank you so much.
Okay, so why don't we have the panel just start off by, they can say their name again and then just talk quickly about the college they're representing. We could start with Phil, if that's okay.
A lot of pressure being first. So my name is Phil Baird. I'm an admissions counselor at UMass Amherst. We are the flagship university of Massachusetts. We're located about an hour and a half away from here, out in lovely Pioneer Valley, Amherst, Mass. We're a large institution, right? I went to UMass. I just graduated in May. Clearly, I liked it. That I'm now working for them. So it's a wonderful school. You can trust me by that. We're all wonderful schools, right? Yeah.
Hi, good evening. My name is Tiana Cadasquillo. I'm the Associate Director of Admissions Operations at Worcester State University. Located in the great city of Worcester, we have about 5,000 undergraduate students on our campus. Average class size is only about 20 students, so we're not a huge state school like a UMass, but still representing the state schools on a smaller scale. Some of our most popular majors being biology, psychology, business, and our most competitive majors being nursing, occupational studies, and yeah, go Woo State.
Hi everyone, Jen Cluett. I'm the Associate Vice President and Dean of Admission at WPI. We are the STEM option, Worcester Polytechnic. That means many technical disciplines. So our students are studying things like engineering, mathematics, computer science, data science, robotics, all those fun tech disciplines. We are also in Worcester. Go Worcester. I love the Worcester theme here. We are a school of about 5,000 undergraduates. Again, all STEM, lots of global opportunities, hands-on learning, short terms, no failing grades, test blind. There's a lot of things about WPA that are not like the other schools here. So I'd encourage you to listen up and get a sense of what makes sense to you and what you're looking for. But it's nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Happy to be here. My name is Katie Hager, representing Boston College. We are located in Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts, about 9,500 undergraduate students studying across 4 academic divisions, the largest being our Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences. Also have a Carroll School of Management for those of you interested in business. Our Lynch School of Education and Human Development, if you're interested in either a career in teaching or something related to human or social services. And then finally, our smallest academic division, our Cannell School of Nursing. I think most importantly, we are a Jesuit Catholic university, so very much a mission-driven institution. Happy to talk a little bit more about what that means, but again, thanks for having me.
I mean, give her a hand. I mean, you started, there it is. Good evening, everyone. My name is George Kuntz. I am the Assistant Director for Admissions at Assumption University, the best university in Worcester. I get to say it because I have the mic now, Jen. I'm sorry. So there it is. All joking aside, we are about 17 minutes door to door, depending on if Gen students cross quickly, across the street. 20 minutes if they don't. But we are about 17 minutes away from here. So we are close. We are a small private Catholic-based university that is liberal arts. We thrive on our liberal arts education. Top 3 right now is, we are top 3 in the state for education. We have a wonderful business and international business division, and nursing / health sciences, 2 different divisions, but they kind of vie for the 3rd spot as number 3. Nursing, just as a quick note, 100% of our students just graduated through the NCLEX for nursing. So we are very proud of that number, and it's our first year out. So I think we're doing something right for sure. But any questions, concerns, panic attacks, or anything that you have regarding Assumption University, happy to help and welcome.
And last but certainly not least, my name is Justin Sharifpour. I'm the Dean of Undergraduate Admission from Emerson College in Boston. We were not 17 minutes away. If you were on the Mass Pike today, it was awful. I am a father of 3 Shrewsbury Public Schools. I have 1 at Sherwood and 2 at Beale. My eldest has a wonderful Jennifer Coolidge impression, who is an Emerson alum. So there's a little personal thing for that. We're about 4,000 undergraduate students and 1,500 graduate students. We're right in downtown Boston. We also specialize in an alternative option, like Jen. We specialize in the arts and communications. We're really known for our film program and our performing arts and other programs like writing and journalism.
All right, I'm just going to ask a couple more questions and then we'll turn it over to the audience so you can kind of start thinking about it. But I don't know, some of you or all of you can talk about sort of what does your typical admitted student look like, specifically in this coming class. We can start anywhere. Start with you, Justin, so you're not last this time.
First and best now. So one of the things, and we talked about authenticity earlier, and I think that's the most important thing that we're seeing from this year is we have a generation of high school students who dealt with COVID. We have all of you dealt with COVID, and there's still those lingering effects. So we're seeing students coming out of that and trying to shine now. They're trying to adapt to a new world. And I think the most important thing that we're seeing is there's an outpouring of honesty now and feeling that they want to tell their story in a way that we haven't necessarily seen in prior to COVID or even in the last few years. We also know that your students will use ChatGPT, so don't think that that isn't something we're looking at. So even essays, we're looking for that authenticity. We're not looking for something that you can just run through and AI software. So talking about their personal experiences, that's a huge thing. Talking about overcoming adversity, that's a huge thing as well.
I guess I'll go next then. First is the worst, second is the best. That's how we're going with it? All right. For us, I'm going to echo it. We are looking for that authenticity, and that is the biggest thing that I will tell my students is let your freak flag fly. Tell us who you are. We know when students are feeding us a line. We know that. We know when we're being sold a bill of goods that we know the students cannot follow through with. And we don't want that. We want the students who are genuine. We want the students who admit when they were wrong and have tried to correct that. Oftentimes, I've read this year specifically, college, I didn't think college was for me. And then they came through sophomore, junior year, the light bulb clicked, and now they're scrambling to try and bring their GPAs up, make sure that they're really, trying to fit where all of the institutions are looking for their students. So really, it's just, we want to know the good, the bad, the ugly, the sad, and we will discuss it if we have questions about anything. But also a student who is willing to have a little grit for someone who's looking to maybe not know what they want to do. To echo, the honesty sometimes is a little too honest. There's a lot of trauma that we are reading. So we welcome it, but we also know that there are students that will also need help. So we don't know what we don't know, so tell us what we need to know.
I'll take a different angle here. I think we're considering all of the things that my colleagues here talked about, but also for us, your academic profile is still incredibly important, right? And I think that especially as juniors, this is a really good time to keep this in mind. Your counselors talked about course selection. They talked about thinking about your schoolwork first as you navigate this process. And I think that often gets lost in translation, right? As you think about all of the other things that a college is looking for, all of which are incredibly important in making our decisions and building a class. But your focus on your schoolwork for us is always the most important. So continuing to focus on those 5 core academic subject areas, working with your counselors to choose a curriculum that is really best suited for you. Doesn't mean taking every AP class available here at Shrewsbury, but building a curriculum that is really going to set you up for success with the schools that are the best fit for you moving forward.
You can all answer this one, yeah.
So the question was, what does an admitted student look like on our campuses? And I would describe WPA students as creative and curious, collaborative, innovative, thinkers and doers. Those are the descriptors. For those of you that want the cold hard facts about what they look like academically, because academics drive this process at WPI, I would describe them as being very good students, but not perfect students. They typically have A's with B's. And they're typically taking things like honors and advanced placement level courses. They're challenging themselves when they feel confident. So they might be taking AP Physics, but there's no way they're taking honors French, if that makes sense. So again, it's very much, authentic, thinking about what it is that's important to you. But again, I think that the descriptors of curious, creative, innovative, those are really important. That's how you think, how you learn, and that's something that we see in WPI students.
I think it's a tough question. I know at Worcester State we have a wide range of students from different backgrounds, different socioeconomic backgrounds, academic profiles. The average accepted student for Worcester State is probably about a 3.0 or a B student. But we have anywhere from a 2.5 GPA up through above a 4.0 student who's in our honors program. So in terms of the academic profile, it's a wide range. Being a state school, we are about access, equality, providing quality education at affordable cost. So it's a great option for anywhere from that top honor student to also a student who might not have the strongest academic profile. Some of the words that I would describe our students are hardworking, they're engaged in their community, they're authentic, they are very diverse. In terms of diversity of Worcester State, over 35% of our students identify as a student of color or from an underrepresented group. About 50% of our students are first-generation college students, meaning they're the first person in their family to go to college. We have an Office of Multicultural Affairs that promotes a lot of diversity and inclusion on our campus. And just like the other, definitely all the other, my colleagues here touched upon, like, you know, the essay and being yourself and academics. But I also just want to highlight that diversity is really important at Worcester State, and it's something that we value, and I wanted to highlight that on my little talk here. Thank you.
Yeah, not to beat a dead horse, because like you know, I can just like say everything that they said, right? But you know, to be a strong student at UMass, and you know what we're looking for in a student is someone who is, you know, strong academically, you know, challenge themselves with a difficult course load, right? Don't push it too hard, you know, don't take, you know, 6 APs if you can't handle that, right? We don't want to see that. You know, if you can handle it, that's awesome, right? But we also want to see, you know, extracurricular activities, right? We want to see that you're involved in your community, you know, not just your school community, but the Shrewsbury community, right? We want to see that you're, you know, dedicated to what you're involved in. Right, that you know you joined a club your first year in high school, and you've moved up to a leadership position, and then by senior year you're on the e-board, right? Or for a sport, you know, you made freshman, your freshman year, moved up to JV, moved up to varsity, you're a captain at the end of the year. You get a promotion at work, right? Something that shows that you're dedicated to what you're involved in, and that you do it because you actually care, right? I know the slide said it earlier, where don't just do something for a college application, right? That's not what we're looking for. You know, we want to see that you're being a part of these organizations because you actually care about them, and you want to be a part of that organization, not just because you feel like you need to be. So yeah, just a well-rounded student, someone who's going to come to UMass, and make it a better school than it already is. So, but then again, like everything that everyone else said. Yeah.
I'm Jamie Lucier. You can't see me way down here. It's feeling a little short on the stool. But I was hoping that you guys could talk a little bit about early decision. Over the past 2 years, I'm finding that families and students are using it as a strategy to get accepted. And I was just hoping you could speak on your thoughts on that. You get to go first.
So early decision. So you'll often hear it referred to as ED. There's sometimes ED1, ED2. There's multiple rounds depending on the institution. It is a binding decision. So if you're admitted, you are supposed to withdraw your applications from other institutions and go there. There are caveats that you can talk to your schools about potentially getting released from early decision. But it is signed by both your school counselor, a parent or family member, and the student, and submitted to the college or university. So keep that in mind. There is a piece of paper that we get signed by everybody. The holy trinity of college admissions, the school counselor, the family member, and the student. So that's important to note, that there is a process for it. We at Emerson, just as a concept, we only have about 15 to 20% of our institution is from early decision. Other schools don't have it. Other schools do have it and use it more. It's important to do your research on this up front. It's also important to note, and you saw the kind of do's and don'ts on the slide, if you are not sure you want to and can attend that institution, don't apply early decision. It's not for the benefit of you, the family, the student, or the institution. If this is your number one school, maybe it's a reach institution, and potentially you can afford it, then you should think about early decision. But only after you've checked off those boxes. Don't use it as a gaming of the system, which is what you may have been hearing a little bit about. Don't do that. Do it if you're confident this is where you want to go and you can afford it. If you have questions on any of those things, don't do it.
Yep.
Yeah, not everyone has to just
Right there.
really do this thing.
And don't feel pressure to do it either. Don't ever feel pressure to do it. We don't have that.
I'm going to ask one more question, and then we're going to open it up. Sure, okay.
Yeah, so just early decision, there's also restrictive early action. There are some schools that allow you to only apply to one school, but it's non-binding. And then there's regular early action, which is a non-binding plan, but an early notification. So again, I think the point here is that early decision is an intentional choice, and a student who chooses early decision over another early plan is Number one, they're foregoing the opportunity to compare scholarship and financial aid awards. You're missing out on that because if you're admitted, you're enrolling. So early decision, it's really designed for students who I think have that opportunity where the cost, the final cost to their family may not be as important in considering all of the things they need to consider. And it's also for a student who knows, I'm going there. This is 100% where I want to be. I don't want to consider other options. And unfortunately, because universities, if you're looking at their admission rates by plan, sometimes a family might say, or a student might say to themselves, well, if I'm going to, the only way I'm ever going to get in is if I apply early decision. Well, that may be the strategy, but again, you have to be very careful before you make the choice to submit that early decision application because you're putting all of your eggs in one basket. You have to feel comfortable with the outcome that if you're admitted, you're going. So again.
And so that's early decision. I know for Worcester State, I think you mentioned, we only have early action. So early action, all that means is an early deadline. You apply early, it's not binding, you don't have to attend. You just get an early decision, have more time to decide. So, and if you forget the difference between early decision and early action, just ask, because you might leave here and go, which one was that? So that's fine.
Following up on that, is there an advantage to apply early action? Like admissions wise, not just getting your answer quicker, but like, is there an advantage if you, in terms of being admitted, is there an advantage?
At UMass, there is not an advantage, right? The only advantage is that you hear back from us earlier. We actually just sent out decisions yesterday. All 33,000 early action students heard yesterday. It was a big day in Amherst. But so yeah, there's no better chance of getting in for early action versus regular decision. And then we do not have early decision. We don't offer that, just early action and regular decision.
For Assumption, we have both early action and early decision, and we do an early action / decision one-time scholarship for families, typically every year. We do check, it does change every year. Sometimes, we'll give a little bit more if we are offering it, so it is something to really consider, early action, that kind of thing. Again, if you're not committing or you need a little bit more time with early action, it still follows you through up until your point of signing on the dotted line, so you don't lose it if you don't use it right away. But that is one thing that we do specifically if you do apply early.
Just to add another layer here, we offer early decision, we don't have early action, but we do have an early scholarship priority deadline. So for students who are looking for those incredibly selective academic merit-based scholarships, often these do require you to submit your application earlier. You can still select, in our case, which decision plan you'd like to be considered for, so you can still apply early decision or regular decision, but you just have to submit your application by November 1st, regardless, to be considered for this merit award. So just another piece of advice to consider as you're thinking about your schools and what type of merit money is offered as well.
Statistically at WPI, you are more likely to gain admission through an early plan than through regular decision. And that is simply, it's a math game, that when we are evaluating application, we have a limited number of people we can admit, right? Each of the colleges have a limited number of seats in classrooms and beds in residence halls. So we know what that number is, and as applications continue to grow year over year, we don't know how many are coming when we're making decisions on a student in December. We don't know how many are coming. So it very well could be that the standard that is applied when we are selecting our class, when we're looking at those early action candidates, they may be admitted at a higher rate than a later pool. If the applications were to grow, we now are sort of running out of seats, if that makes sense. So that scenario has in fact played out at WPI, so I want to be clear that it's not by design, but statistically, when we have both ED and EA, and we have ED2 and EA2, you basically can pick any round, any plan at WPI.
Don't be late. That is one thing that'll definitely hurt your chances. If you miss deadlines, talk to your admission office. Make sure that they're aware if you're having trouble finishing up your application or any components of it. Make sure you let them know. But being late, missing deadlines can hurt your chances at many institutions. So that's number one thing. little quip. If you have a student who's applying early action this year, they're going through a whole lot with the FAFSA changes, but that's for a whole nother night. They are going through a hellacious experience for college admissions, but that's neither here nor there.
Okay, switching gears, we're going to talk about test scores, SAT and or ACT scores. I'm just going to have, it doesn't have to be everyone, talk about what does SAT optional mean? Should you submit scores? There is some talk out there right now. I don't know if anyone listens to any podcast, but there's a great one from the Daily on the messy fight about the SAT. And it talks a lot about should SATs be brought back into the college admissions policy. So we're just going to have them talk a little bit. When should you submit that SAT score or ACT?
So at Emerson, our most recent class was 28% submitting a test score that enrolled. So the vast majority do not give us a test. You have to look into this at individual schools. Some schools may not take the test at all. Other schools require it and have a very high percentage. Make sure you do your research on this. At our institution, that is not the case. The vast majority of students do not submit SATs or ACTs. To what Angie was talking about, the College Board is leveraging a massive public relations campaign that it's a multi-billion-dollar nonprofit that they're trying to make sure that they are still relevant. But you're seeing a lot of these studies coming out that are not necessarily indicative of who you are as a student. Make sure you talk to your institutions about if there are merit scholarships that are dependent on SATs or ACTs. That's an important thing. Even if they are test optional, are there other things that are required? Are there certain programs that require test scores? Find out, be in touch with your admission counselor on that, because these are important things that you don't want to find out late in the game.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add is state schools in Massachusetts, including UMass, we are test optional. They are not required for admission. I've been in admissions, gosh, how long? Maybe 15 years? Oh, been a long time. And I know things have been changing. When I first started out in college admissions, there was more of an interest of seeing SATs, but as I progress in the field, I'm seeing more and more colleges going test optional. There is not a very strong correlation between high test scores and performance in college. So many schools are dropping the requirement for SAT or ACT scores and really focusing on the high school transcript, looking at how you're performing over the 4 years, how your course rigor, your course selection, the college essay, your letters of recommendation, and paying a lot more focus on that than any test scores. So I would say even the majority of our students are not even taking the test anymore because so many colleges are test optional. Save yourself some money, save yourself some stress. But again, like my colleague said, it really is ask each college that you're applying to, are they required? Are they required for specific majors? And I will just leave it at that.
I'll represent a little bit of a different voice because we are test optional at Boston College. It is up to you whether or not you choose to submit your test score, but to be transparent with our statistics, about 68 to 70% of our admitted students last year did submit a test score, right? So a little bit different looking applicant pool. My general advice, our advice as an office, is if you take the test and you are proud of your scores, you feel they represent who you are as a student in the classroom, you should send them to Boston College because they could be another reason to advocate for you in what's an incredibly selective process, right? I mean, we're admitting 12, 13% of the students who apply at regular decision. So if you are proud of that score, and that can be a range of scores, right? We evaluate testing very much in the context of which you're coming from, then you should consider sending them. If you get your score back and you think, this doesn't represent who I am as a student, I feel like it might weaken my application, that's when you should have a conversation with your counselor about maybe holding that score back. I know it's complicated, it's very personal, we're happy to chat with families about this as well, but I think it's important to be as transparent as possible that some of the schools that fall in that highly selective realm still are considering tests in the process.
At WPI, we are test blind, so we are at a different side of the spectrum. That means that even if you want us to look at your SAT or ACT score, we do not. I just told you 10 minutes ago, we value creativity, collaboration, innovation. We value hard work, perseverance, grit. There are so many things that cannot be measured with that 3 or 4 hour period of your life. So WPI's faculty made the decision to, we went from a test optional stance. We were test optional, first nationally recognized STEM university to go test optional in 2007. And the data showed that it did not matter what the SAT score was. We looked at the non-submitters and the submitters, and their grade performance at WPI did not change depending upon whether they were a submitter or not. So we decided that we were concerned about the problematic correlation with family income and said, this is not a measure that we want to look at. This is 3 to 4 hours of your life on a Saturday morning. We would rather look at other pieces of your application. But this is a reflection of WPI's university values. To go test blind, but you're right. There's lots of opinions about testing, and I'll leave it at that. I will say with COVID, my phone was ringing off the hook because we had been evaluating students without test scores for years, and all of a sudden nobody had them anymore because no one could take a test. And people were saying, well, how does WPI do it? Well, you do it without the test score. Well, how much is the test score helping us determine yes or no? And I think if we're honest with ourselves, it's not giving us a lot of extra information. It's giving you a teeny bit. It's giving you information about how you would perform on a standardized test in a 4-hour period of time. So if that's helpful to the university, then that's helpful to the university.
Just to add to that as well, so like UMass is test optional. That's like what we foresee our future being as well. So again, if you send them in, it's going to get added to your application. We read holistically. That means we take into every single aspect of your application. We don't make our decision based off of the GPA or your extracurriculars or your letter of rec or your SAT, ACT scores if you send them in. So truly, truly optional. If you want to send them in, right? If you think it's going to help your application, go for it. And you can always reach out to us. Like Boston College said, you can always reach out to us if you have questions, right? You can email me and say like, hey Phil, like I have a 1400 GPA, I'm applying for math. Like, should I send it in? And then I will be honest with you, right? Like, looking at the rest of your application as well, we can be honest with you for that. But again, some people are bad test takers. I'm a terrible test taker. My SAT was awful. So it's good that we're test optional. Wish I was applying under a test option.
And I'm with Phil on the SAT scores. So one of the other things I was hoping we could talk about is when you get a student's essay, sometimes students like to have numerous people read them over and over and over again. Can you tell if somebody's been coached and that maybe it's not their voice anymore?
I'll take this one. So I've just been reading applications for the past 3 months. I just started. And I can already tell if someone has gotten it rewritten by their parents or by their teachers, just by reading the rest of their application, the way that they write and they talk in the rest of the apps. It's definitely good to have someone read your application for like spelling mistakes, that's a big one, or just like grammar, But we want to see like your application, right? Like your mom's not coming to UMass, right? You are the one going to UMass, right? Definitely get the help with your application in total, but we do want to see like your authentic self within your essay. Also, don't think too much about the essay, right? That gets put into the rest of your application. Again, the holistic sense that we read it in your review applications. I freaked out about my essay, when I was applying to schools. There is an entire rest of your application that we're also looking at, right? So it's an important part, but it is not like the end-all, be-all. So don't bend over backwards about your essay. Also, the ones that I like reading the most are the ones that are like real talking, like the actual authentic self. It's fun when there's like a joke tossed in there or something. If you keep it light, like that keeps it, easy for us to read and like, it's enjoyable for us to read, right? But we aren't looking for anything specific. We just want to see like what you want to talk about. So.
On the other side of that too, make sure you are, though, having someone have fresh eyes on it, that you're not using slang, you're not texting us, you are writing an essay, right? I can't tell you how many times I've seen LOL in a college essay, and I write back brothel, just, we'll get down on that level. comma, but you are taking this a little bit more seriously, and don't overdo it, but don't underdo it as well. 3 sentences, that doesn't give us much to go on. We don't need War and Peace, but we don't need just a paragraph. We need something a little bit more. Also, when you're thinking about your college essay, what is it about your essay that's going to stand out from the multitude of essays that we are all reading? We can read that you are a great athlete and that how, your athletics really shaped how your leadership is. That's all fine and great, but we've read that with other, 15,000 other, athletes that are applying through. Think about it, about what, maybe that there's something out there that you haven't, been able to express through your application, or, something that maybe someone doesn't know about, a fun factoid about you. Give us something a little bit more than just the standard, what you think, we want to hear. But definitely make sure someone is proofing it. That is something that you definitely want to have done.
I'll also give a shout out to the Shrewsbury High School Guidance Office. Sign up for the boot camp. In August, they will help you go through your essays with you and your idea for the essays, which is just as important as the spell check. A lot of times we hear, especially since last summer, you have to show this perseverance over adversity. It's a buzzword right now in admissions. If you haven't experienced that, don't make something up. I've talked to students, even from this high school, who have talked about really wonderful personal stories that we would never get from a transcript or a listing of activities or anything else. They just talked from the heart and the soul about things they're passionate about. And we have to read these things, and we read a lot of them. So if we can find that instant connection of who you are as a student, that's where we want to see that in an essay. Proofread it. Don't say, I'd really love to come to a manual. We are Emerson. So things like that, it's like an instant, nah, I'm done with you. I don't want to read this. So make sure you put the name of the school you're actually applying to in the essay.
All right, we're going to open up questions for the audience. We're going to see if Jamie can kind of come around so you have the microphone, because sometimes it can be hard to hear.
Any suggestion on the length of the essay? Maybe you don't want to be an hour away.
Yes, the Common App does limit it. Up to 1 page, 2 pages. 500 words. Yeah, 1 to 2 pages. Yes.
Yeah, how much is the political view of the person reflected in the essay affect the admission decision, like person is pro-free market or pro-green versus pro-immigration, or that type of liberal versus conservative? So is this good idea to express if you feel too much about one way or other to the application, and how much it is affected by which person in the same university is reading that?
Hello?
So the question was about, if you have specific or particular political persuasions, or if you're, what your feelings on particular social causes. I would say it's less about what persuasion you have or where you are on the continuum or the spectrum politically or anything like that, but what have you done with that passion? Have you campaigned for candidates? Have you volunteered for campaigns? Those are the types of things. It doesn't matter if you're on the left or the right, or you're pro this or pro that. If you've channeled that passion into something substantive, that's what we want to see, because that's showing advocacy for others. That's showing that you care about certain things and you're willing to go out of your comfort zone. So if you're passionate about the environment and you did a wonderful project in your community, talk about it. If you are on the left or the right, but you're passionate about these causes, talk about it. What have you done about it? I think that matters more than necessarily where you are and what your feelings are about them.
I'll just also add that we're not here to judge your political affiliations. That's not really, we're here to see if you're going to contribute to our campus, be engaged, can you handle the academic rigor of it, will you be a member of our community. And the other piece of that is that, let's say your political views are very important to you, it's not so much that you're trying to like convince us that you should come to our school. I think you should be picking a school that might be more in alignment with your political views. You know, so if I am very liberal and progressive and I believe that Black Lives Matter and I'm pro-choice, I'm going to want to go to an institution that has those same values. If I believe, you know, that diversity is important, I'm going to want to go to an institution that values that. There are conservative campuses, I would say, and different types of climates on different climates and atmospheres. That's kind of harder to judge because it's a little more objective at times. But if your political views are very important to you and you want to go to an institution that is supportive of that, you're going to want to look at the website of the institution, look at the mission, the core values. You're going to want to come to campus and talk to the students. Many campuses might have a Young Republicans group, maybe Young Democrats group, or et cetera, different types of associations like that. So I would say if that's important to you, look for an institution that's going to support you in those values, not so much worry about what we're thinking about you when you're writing that particular essay. Because I'm not here to judge you on that. I'm going to look at your grammar and I'm going to look at your sentence structure and, you know, can you convey a clear point, but it's not so much about what you're writing and how you're writing in terms of the evaluation process and the admissions process.
That's our great audience clapping.
Hi, my name is Vijay, and this question is regarding the visa status of the student, right? I have been searching about the information, how the decision would be made between the H-1B visa holder who is not a permanent resident here and versus the green card and the permanent residence, right? I have seen, or I have around my community, so I think, I don't know, it's something hidden inside, and I just want to know, like you are there, and then I want to know, how do you see these applications, meaning H-1B applications, right? Students with a dependent visa, H-4, versus the permanent residence or the green card. Thank you.
So I'll speak for Boston College in terms of the admission process. Every student is treated exactly the same. They are admitted on the basis of who they are as an academic student, who they are in their community, what their teachers and counselors say about them, the quality of their writing. Anything to do with their residency is not considered in our process. The only time that comes into play for us is when it comes to financial aid, and that is a government policy that we cannot change. So in order for students to be considered for need-based financial aid at Boston College, they must be US citizens or permanent residents. They can still be considered for merit aid regardless. This also varies from school to school. For example, we're opening a new associate's degree granting program at Boston College this summer called Messina College, in which we will be considering international undocumented students for financial aid, need-based financial aid. So there are some universities that do that, depending on the division and the scenario, but in terms of admissions, every student is treated the same.
That is the same at UMass Amherst. We read everyone as the same. Yeah. It just gets, it's different when it comes to financial aid. Yeah.
You say that you would provide financial aid from H4 visa category?
I am not entirely sure of that. My office doesn't handle financial aid. We have a financial aid office, so I'm not positive about that.
Anyway, I think you said the visa program is coming.
Right, so for need-based financial aid, the government grants, the government loans, most universities, I shouldn't say most, for Boston College, we cannot consider international students. They have to have residency to be considered for that type of aid money.
And if you do have any questions about The student visa process, even after being accepted, many institutions, whether it's within the admissions office or they have an international student affairs or international students office, talk to them about what the student visa process will be to get your F1 visa or whatever visa type might be appropriate for your student. That's also an important thing. Talk to them about what the process is. Hey, my student's been admitted. What do I need to do to have their student visa issued? What documents are required? Copy of the passport, whatever it might be, so that we can go into the various federal systems and be able to issue a student visa for your students. That's an important thing as well.
I think you brought in a very good point. Getting an F1B visa for a student, will that change the admission process, like the financial aid or anything like that?
Like BC, it doesn't change anything on admissions. You may qualify or not qualify for certain types of financial aid. There might be scholarships, there might not be scholarships. It's very school specific in that. Generally speaking, for admission, it doesn't matter whether you get into the college. The financial piece can vary because there's certain federal or state programs you may qualify or even institutional aid. And then, like I said, after being admitted, when you start talking about what type of visa may be issued to your student, that's something you talk to the international student representatives, whether it's in the admissions office or the international student office.
Thank you.
Great question.
Hi, thank you. This was very useful information and made me feel very calm. Which is not what you hear many times in the news and we talk to friends. So I don't really have a question on a specific thing, but my question is, when you look at an application for a student, is there one thing that's very important? Let's say that could be their transcript or their essay, or is that the complexion of the whole application as such? What is it that, is there a deal breaker? As it is, test scores are confusing enough. Some want them, some don't want them. So what is it? Is it the whole application you're looking at, or is there something specific that's number one on your list of priorities? Thanks.
So for UMass, the most important thing for us is your GPA, your transcript. Right? We want to see, obviously, the classes you're taking, the challenging classes, that you're pushing yourself in. But again, it's the holistic review process, right? So we really do look at every single piece, but the transcript and GPA holds the most weight, right? There is not a deal breaker. You don't get into UMass on one thing, you don't get denied from UMass on one thing, right? It truly is the entire package of the applicant. There's not one specific thing. Yeah.
Well, you can't get denied. I know for the state schools, you cannot have a below 2.0 GPA, which is, yeah. So I will say that the high school transcript is very important, your GPA. You could have the best essay in the world, and if you have a below 2.0, you will be denied admission. You could have a really great GPA and a very poor essay and still get admission. So it's a combination of a lot of things. But I would say that it's your academic performance, because you're going to a higher education institution. And again, this is for state schools, UMass, Worcester State. Again, you're going to have to ask each university their admissions criteria, what they're looking at, because what I say goes for Worcester State is very different from WPI, from Boston College, from Assumption, etc.
I think universities have to look at everything. I can't imagine any of us would say that we don't look at everything. We have a holistic review process. We wouldn't require all that stuff. We wouldn't require the essay and the recommendation and the transcript and all the other things we want from you if they weren't important, if we weren't learning and gleaning information from that. So it's really, what do you do outside of the classroom? Do you have a job? What are your responsibilities at home? We're trying to figure out this student within the context of his or her lived experiences. And every student, you're all different students. And if we're looking at students at Shrewsbury High School, but students at high schools all around the globe, we're trying to figure out this student within the context of their life, trying to learn as much about them as we can, and predicting whether or not we think they're going to be a successful member of our academic and social communities. So we have to look at everything.
We're going to make you work for it. Just to echo everything, I mean, we at Assumption take it on a very holistic approach. For example, this afternoon I had a very, very, very inspiring young lady from a neighboring community who did not have the best GPA transcript out there. And I took it upon myself to reach out to this young woman and say, let's have a conversation. Let's have a talk. And we were able to do a nice virtual kind of interview process. From the minute she signed on, I was hooked. And sometimes when we can read through an application, we can see the progression on a transcript, we can see all this. Yes, we have certain requirements, as everyone on our panel does, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that that GPA at that moment of submission reflects who that student is. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that your student is going to succeed. We are not setting students up for failure. That's not what we want. We will take your money, but we don't want to take it to say, well, good luck, because you're on your own and let's set you up for failure. That's not what we're here for. So depending on where you are applying to, where you want to go, what you're looking to do, it really does vary. Now, for example, within our institution as well, while we do take a holistic approach, there's a lot higher expectation if you're applying to our nursing degree, which I think you would want in a nurse, versus, another student, but they have certain requirements that are far above where the general pool of applicants come in because they are so specific in what they need from our students. So that, to echo what we've all been talking about, is to just check in with the institution as well to see what each individual area of concentration does require. Because again, at the end of the day, success is the bottom line.
So there are some things that might be deal breakers. We have a musical theater program where we had over 2,000 applicants for a class of less than 20. If you can't act, then you're probably not going to get in. That's just a numbers thing at that point. If you bomb your audition, unfortunately that might be difficult for you to get admitted at that point. Maybe another program at the college, and that's important even with nursing. You might not get into a nursing program. Is there another program at the institution you might be interested in? Whether it's in the STEM field or another health sciences, that's an important thing to know. If you don't get into musical theater, is there another film program or a journalism program you're interested in? That's also something to consider. Many institutions have points of emphasis. We look at everything, but there's certain things that we zero in on. If you put, I really want to come to Emmanuel instead of Emerson, not too good. If you had a rocky 9th grade or freshman year, but you showed improvement after that, and you sit there and say, I got B's and C's in 9th grade, but you turned it around, don't think that performance in 9th grade is a nail in a coffin. Quite the opposite. That upward trend, the fact that you persevered, maybe you had some context, you were sick, you had a family member pass away that year, you could elaborate a little bit more as to what happened in the 9th grade. But if you did very, very well in 10th and 11th, that's something we're going to see right away, and we'll say, you know what, that student overcame something, turned it around, and is doing awesome. That's actually a huge check mark in your favor. I'd say right now junior is also a point of emphasis in many institutions. It's most representative of who your student is right now. So really focus on doing well this year, because this is the most recent year of many times and most recent grades we're going to have. But nothing will necessarily exclude you.
Just to add something to that real quick, if you are looking for some of the more competitive majors at UMass, like engineering, business, and computer sciences, right? So business and computer sciences do require through pre-calculus, and then engineering requires through pre-calculus, physics, and chemistry. And unfortunately, you will be denied if you don't have those required courses. So again, just to keep you, when you're choosing classes for next year, right? If you're going for engineering, make sure you have those specific things. Again, for every school, there are specific requirements for different majors, so definitely just look at those. Right?
I'm just quickly going to bring up, and maybe you guys can touch upon it, is GPA. So the GPA we have here at Shrewsbury High is on a 5.0 weighted scale. So we weight for AP and honors. But every high school in Massachusetts and across the country calculate GPA differently. So many colleges recalculate GPA, and they can recalculate it many different ways, including only the 5 core classes, including 5 cores and 1 elective. So if you guys just want to briefly talk about how, because we get a lot of students who get really worked up about their Shrewsbury High GPA, but that's very different than what maybe UMass or Emerson or Boston College are really looking for in a GPA, because they could recalculate it. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that.
We recalculate GPAs, right? We will take the 4 or 5 core academic classes that you got. We'll also then add 1 elective to your semester GPA. We're obviously going to give you points for honors versus AP, right? But we don't take classes. We're not going to take physical education. We won't take health or any of the home ec courses besides just those core academic classes, and then 1 additional elective.
We do not recalculate GPAs. We take whatever GPAs are printed on your transcript, and then we don't really care about what they are anyways, because really in the end, what we do is write out the academic story. So I literally, for every student, have a box for each year, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, and I write out the academic story for each year. So in 9th grade, what core classes did you take? How many subjects did you cover? At what level were those classes? And then what was the overall grade that year? A-ish, B+ish? And I do that for every year. So then I can see the overall academic arch, the academic story, contextually, how have you taken advantage of the curriculum here at Shrewsbury. 6 APs here means something different than it does across the street at St. John's, than it does at Bancroft, right? And so that's our job, is to understand that academic story and really evaluate you contextually where you're coming from. So for us, the number actually doesn't really matter at all. And really it's about what does that number mean.
At Assumption, we recalculate to a 4.0 scale, and so we do look at all the core classes, and we take up to 4 electives, but we'll look at your best ones too, and just make sure that you are ready to go.
Say it.
Okay, any more question over there? Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for all the very insightful sort of guidance you give us. I have a slightly sort of specific question. So in addition to the general academics, there are a lot of, I know none of the colleges here represented are specific art institutes, but there are a lot of art-related programs. So my question is how to juggle the balance between the regular academics and say the art portfolio that would really make them stand out in the application process. Thank you.
Oh, I'll take this one. So many institutions, whether it's art institutes and we have a big performing arts department, we have a media arts production department, where it's important to also to note, this is the number one advice I can give for anything that is artistic based. Look at the instructions. They might have very specific requirements of what they're looking for in portfolios and not looking for in portfolios, depending on the program, depending on the institution. This is the number one thing you have to do. Is there a limit on how many portfolio items they're looking for? Is there a max or a min? Are they looking for certain types depending on what genre you're going to be going into? That's the most important thing to do, because it can vary across the institutions. Whether it's required or not, if you're going to specifically an art program, generally it is. It might be strongly encouraged. When you see anything that says strongly encouraged, you want to do it. But it's really important. The most important thing I can say is just look online at their specific requirements of what they're looking for in that portfolio. Also, call over to admissions or send an email and try and get some inside information and get out of them. Is there something specifically that, I have a film that I'd like to do? Well, we're looking more on this perspective. So that's go online, look at the requirements, and then contact the admissions office if you have any questions.
Good evening. I only have one question, but in 26 parts. So, First question really comes around with, I'm hearing about the nursing programs here. And rumor has it that there are some institutions that have a waiting list. So the first question I'm going to be asking is, are there some programs at each of the institutions, we'll take nursing as an example, that have a waiting list? Because I've heard sometimes as long as 3 years for some of the programs. So I just want to, that's the first question. The second question has to do with, can students get ahead of the game? So what do I mean by that? If they're in the nursing program, this is what their heart felt. Can they actually take pre-classes in their junior or senior year to kind of get ahead of the thing a little bit? Maybe helps with the application process to say that I've already committed and started working on classes related to this. And the third question is just going to be, it's a competitive field here. You're dealing with thousands of students that are applying for college right now. What is it really that gives the students a competitive edge? We all can make out the application process. You know, when it comes to the essay, I've seen some cheat with ChatGPT. And I understand the story is also important, as you mentioned earlier, but is it the volunteering? Is it students going out there doing a lot of community activities? Is it their GPA? You know, what is it really that gives the students a competitive edge?
I can answer the nursing one. At Worcester State, we have a very competitive nursing program. We do not have a waiting list at all, so you're either accepted or you're not. So it's a pretty straightforward. I know that's not the truth for every institution. I know Quinn Sig has a waiting list. That's probably where you're getting that 3-year wait from. But that's a good question to ask every institution that might have a nursing program if that's what you're interested in. I wasn't sure about the second question. Was that as a junior in high school? Is there anything you do to set yourself aside? Honestly, no. It's again, I'm speaking for Worcester State. The nursing program, we look at your academic profile. We're looking at the course level of difficulty. So in honors AP classes, getting a higher GPA. Yes, we look at the essay. Yes, we look at the community involvement. But again, it becomes like an equity issue where if one student has the time and privilege and opportunity to do all this volunteer and don't have to have a part-time job at like McDonald's, we're not going to hold that against them, So for our nursing program, it is a very academically selective program. Taking dual enrollment courses, yep, that'll definitely help. There are dual enrollment courses where you can get college credit and have that transfer into Worcester State. So that is something, if you wanted to take that at a local community college or one of the universities, that will help your application having college credit. So that was that part. And the other part was... So in terms of getting a competitive edge, we're not a selective institution. So I might have one of my colleagues who are from a selective institution answer that more. For us, if you meet the Worcester State admissions criteria, you'll be accepted. If you do not, you will not be. Except for nursing. That's the part where you can be denied admission to nursing, however, you will gain admission to Worcester State under a different major. Your question is tricky. I do have a lot of knowledge in admissions in selective and non-selective institutions, and you're going to hear a different answer. And you might not even know, every institution has their own institutional goals. So there might be a program, let's say the university, they have a band and they really need a trumpet player. Maybe someone who's this excellent trumpet player is going to get priority or selected first over maybe a student that plays the piano in terms of building an institution, or athletics could play a role in that. They're looking to build a particular team. I know for us, we're looking to build our visual performing arts major. So that student who puts visual performing arts on their application might get a little preference over a student who selected business, where we have plenty of business students. So that's where I'll leave it with that. I don't think there's going to be a really specific answer that I can give you that'll maybe make you feel better or give you that trick that you need to put on your application. But again, like we mentioned earlier, it's not about trying to find the way to get in, the trick to get in. We want to know who you are, be who you are, take the classes you love, join the clubs you love, volunteer and the things that bring you joy, and that's what's more important than trying to figure out the way to get into an institution that who knows what they're looking for behind the scenes that has nothing to do with who you are as a person or as a student.
I'll just add some stuff to that. So we do have a wait list for nursing. We have a wait list for every major, right? If you don't get in, you might get waitlisted, you might get denied, right? If you do get waitlisted for any major and you really do want UMass, email us, right? Email us and say like, hey, I'm still really, really interested. I really love UMass. I want to be, a Minuteman for the next 4 years. That's not guaranteeing that you get off the wait list, right? But then it lets us know again, like, oh wow, like Phil actually really does love UMass and wants to be here, right? So again, that's not going to get you off the wait list, but it's going to give us a little bit extra thing. You're like, okay, well, they really like us, right? So it doesn't help obviously to email.
I would just say to one important thing that many students and families get tripped up by. If, in the example of nursing, or a hyper-competitive program at an institution, you need to find out if you are allowed to change your major after a certain number of semesters or years, let's say in sophomore year. If, let's say, you started in biology, are you eligible to transfer into the nursing program? Some institutions don't allow that kind of second try or that side door style. And if they don't, many students get stuck at their institution because I thought if I just took the same courses as a nursing student, I could get in sophomore year. They might not allow that. And if that's the case, that's something you should know going into it up front, so you're not just caught in your second year of college saying, I want to do this musical theater program. You have to do it when you get in initially. There's no second bite at the apple. So that's an important thing to know.
Are they choosing a major when they apply? Or they?
No.
It depends. Yes, so we do have an option to come in undecided, but we kind of tell people like choose a major, right? If for nursing, you've got to be accepted from high school. That is it. You cannot transfer into nursing. You cannot transfer into business. You have to be accepted day one from high school as a student. Yeah. That's UMass. That's a UMass thing.
At Assumption, you have until sophomore year, unless you are nursing. Once you declare nursing, you're in nursing. You can transfer out of it. You cannot transfer into it.
All right, just a few more questions. I know over there you're in the red sheets.
Oh, I have one over here too.
Oh, well, you're next.
Thank you. So my name is Shilpa, and I have a kid who's going to get into her seniors because everyone is here with that. So, well, good evening, first of all. So my question is, what I want to know is, does the university or any of you universities have any information on the companies or organization which would provide externship or internship, because this will lead, to a good kind of criteria for a student to accept what's going on, and he or she can choose what it is. So that's my first question. The second question, what I want to understand is there criteria for Fulbright to the, any universities? Thank you.
So in terms of internship, externships, I can't speak to that, but I can speak to pre-collegiate programs. So many universities offer pre-collegiate programs for juniors or rising seniors. Sometimes they're over the summer, sometimes they're academic, after school. Many universities, WPI among them, have both residential and commuter programs. We have a Girls Who Code program, we have a Women's Research and Mentorship program, we have the Launch program, we have the Frontiers program, we have Jump Start for credit. We have lots of different programs, and many universities do have that, which allows for some pretty amazing enrichment and research opportunities for a high schooler to get a taste of what college is like. And then with regard to Fulbright scholarships, is that what you're looking for? So many universities, their currently enrolled students may get scholarships. We have Fulbright scholars on the campus. I don't know a lot about the Fulbright program, though, unfortunately.
At Assumption, we do have a wide breadth of internship opportunities for students in every major, and even with clinicals, with pre-prac, with everything. We do have an office that does help students locate specific internship sites. We do not get it for them, though. We do encourage students to outreach to certain points of contact at these places, and we will support the students to, and back the students up when they say that they are from Assumption looking for a internship, but we do encourage the students to get the internship on their own, but we will help them to get to that point.
And then we'll take one more after that.
What is your policy procedure around interviews in terms of either in person or virtual? Are they required? Are they optional? Are they encouraged?
UMass does not have interviews. We don't conduct those. Honestly, we have too many people that apply. We're not going to do 55,000 interviews. That's a lot. So no interviews for us. Yeah.
Same with Boston College.
For us, I did mention that this afternoon I did have a virtual interview with a young lady who was up in North Andover. So we do both virtual and in person. If you are close enough and you have no excuse being 17 minutes away to not come to campus. But we also understand that sometimes students aren't ready to be right in person, for an interview right away. So we do not require it, but we do encourage it if students feel that they want to just add to their application. We won't turn a student away that wants an interview. Oftentimes we're pulling teeth to get the interview. So we will reach out to those students, though, in our office if our student's borderline GPA, or we need some extra information off the application. We will reach out for interviews, so we do highly encourage it.
We have certain programs that have auditions or interviews, but not widespread. Here's a hot tip. Have your student get to know their admission counselor. You can just have a phone call or an informal one, even if it's not required or even allowed per se. Your student can still get to know the admission counselor, which can be a great avenue not just to get in, but to also just learn things, even get advice about how to apply to other schools. Many admission counselors will just give you straight, honest advice about the college admission process, not just about their own institution. So even if they don't have an interview process, just have them start a dialogue with their admission counselor. It can be hugely valuable.
And we have admission counselors come in the fall for seniors to visit with. So we'll talk to your students about that, in September, but they can sign up to talk with. We have probably over 50 different schools come.
And I am your representative for Shrewsbury High School, by the way. At Worcester State, we don't do interviews. However, you're more than welcome to come in for a campus tour, come chat with me, set up a time just to learn more about the school. There are some occasions where a student will want to meet with me. Let's say if they want to talk about something that happened in high school that made them miss a year or perform poorly, if they have like a health concern or something like that, that might be a good time to schedule a time to talk about your academic performance if it was impacted in any way by an event in your life.
All right, one last question.
Hopefully everybody can see that the admissions counselors aren't scary, because a lot of times when we tell a student, why don't you just call, they give us this look of horror.
Hi, my question is just to touch upon, you speak of institutional goals that change from year to year, and it may be impacting your applicants that you're considering. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because as a parent, we don't know, or at least I'm not familiar with institutional goals and how they may change or not change from year to year, and it will be impactful. For the next class coming in.
Yeah, this is going to vary greatly from place to place. I'll speak a little bit about what our kind of enrollment management process looks like. That's kind of the term we all use in terms of building a class. So for us, I mentioned 4 undergraduate divisions, right? So one of our institutional goals, we're a university grounded in the liberal arts, is to maintain the College of Arts and Sciences as the predominant house for students on campus. So about 65% of our undergraduates, we've been told, have to be housed within the College of Arts and Sciences. About 25% in the School of Management. about 5% in the School of Ed, about 5% or so in the Cannell School of Nursing. So just by nature of those goals and institutional priorities, it impacts admit rates, it impacts why nursing is sometimes more selective at places, right? Because there are fewer seats, there are fewer classrooms, there are fewer faculty. That's an institutional priority or goal. For us, thinking about international students, we have about 8 or 9% of our undergraduate student body coming from places other than the United States. That's an important population for us to maintain, right? We want to continue to enroll a diverse class geographically, socioeconomically, to make sure that we have a certain percentage of students who are receiving significant need-based financial aid, right? So just to give you some examples of what those institutional priorities look like, more specifically for BC, we're a Division I varsity athletic program, right? We have to have a football team every year. That's an institutional priority, which means we work with recruited student athletes, and that's just a part of the process, just like some places work with students who are performing arts students or have performing arts backgrounds. So just some examples of what those might look like.